Hey everybody. I just wanted to do another short video this week and go over a few more things and kind of talk to you guys a little bit about chapter one, as that will be the main chapter for us to use next week. Um, and so I plan to post at least one or two videos a week, and they're going to be relatively short, like I said, 2 or 3 minutes from most of this point forward. Um, and typically, the first video I post each week will be more about what to look forward to in terms of what we're doing. And the second video that I typically will post will be more of a here's some key things to look for within the books and things I've seen people get caught up on in the past. And some applicational ideas for that chapter. So it won't be necessarily a lecture, but will be kind of based on the material. So that's kind of my hope, is to kind of do those two things each week. So I do encourage you guys to watch these videos, as they will pertain, hopefully useful and helpful information. And then as we get closer to assignments being due, whether that be an exam or part of your paper, I'll typically spend quite a bit of time of one of those videos going over that. And on stuff that I think needs more explanation for, like your article summary assignment, typically I post a video specifically about that. So, and I'll title those and I'll let you know that that's what that video is about, as we come to those times. So just be aware of that. I want you guys to know that that's kind of my goal and my hope for that. So there's two assignments, that I want to go over with you. The first is the research requirement. Obviously, you need to be able to do that either through SONA or article summary. But I want to talk to you about SONA specifically. At the end of this, you can see the link to their website and their email in that appendix. If you've emailed SONA before, be aware that the email did change this semester. So it is a different email if you've emailed them before, so keep that in mind. They should send an email out next week, hopefully, with your email and login. So keep an eye out for that, and it will come to your OK State email. If you don't see it, you can go to the SONA website that's linked in the syllabus, and you can set your own password that way too, when that's ready. Be aware that there are 3 SONA systems on campus here. There's one for the College of Education, there's one for the Psychology Department, and there's also one for the College of Business. And these are 3 very separate systems, and so they don't really communicate with each other in any way. So be aware of that, and make sure you're going to the correct website and the correct SONA system. So that's kind of what I want to talk to you about on that. And then in terms of the program survey, so that's 16 points for the whole semester. There's 2 surveys, so they're both worth 8 points. There's one that should come out around week 3, and then there's one that should come out around week 12. So be looking out for those. When I'm notified that those are being sent, I will post a news item and send you guys an email just to make you guys aware of that. And they'll send reminder emails as well once it's been sent. But those will be sent to your OKC emails as well, so be aware of that. It is a completion grade. So if you do the survey, you get points. It is confidential, so I don't see any of the information or any questions you answered. All I get is a list of students in the course, and then it'll say completed yes or no. So that's all I know. But like I said, it's 16 points for the whole semester for doing both. If you do both surveys, 8 points if you only do one. But it is a completion grade, so it's fairly easy points in that sense, for 16 points. And last semester there was not but like 20 or 30 questions on it. So it's a pretty quick and short survey. So keep that in mind on those. I want to talk to you guys a little bit now about chapter 1. It is pretty short, and the last half of the chapter is kind of going over the structure of the book and kind of going over just kind of outlining each chapter briefly. So there's not necessarily a ton of content at the back half of chapter 1, but do read in depth on the first part of chapter 1, because it does kind of set up kind of how we will frame the psychology of adolescence throughout the semester. So it gives you several different models and theories on, I think it's pages 8, 9, 10, pretty much. And the main thing that they are going to look at are kind of what our first well, not our first 3 chapters, but chapters 2, 3, and 4, we'll look at in our textbook, and that's the physical development, the psychological development, so their brain, their thinking, and their social development. And these theories, so it starts with the biopsychosocial model, which basically looks broadly at those 3 things, at the psychological development, the physical development, and the social development, and looks at them pretty broadly in those senses and kind of how they interact. Whereas if you get into Bronfenbrenner's model on page 10, it kind of breaks those systems down into a little bit more depth and provides you a little more categories for things to fit into. So although these systems aren't necessarily referenced a ton throughout the book, they are important to understand, and they are important to remember, because they do help frame, I think, the rest of our lessons, the rest of our chapters, in terms of adolescent development, kind of how they fit, how those things interact. And I think it's important too to remember that, an adolescent's social development, their physical development, and their psychological development, those aren't separate things. They aren't happening in a vacuum. You're not just developing physically in a vacuum. You're not developing socially in a vacuum. Adolescents, those 3 things are developing together. They're interacting with each other. And the things that we're doing socially are going to impact psychological. The way we develop physically is going to impact socially and psychologically as well. So there's a lot of influence and a lot of back and forth between those 3 kind of distinct areas of development. So I think it's important for us to keep those in mind and keep these systems in mind, especially as we move throughout the book, because it'll be important to be able to make connections between those 3 different things. In the first, like I said, chapters 2, 3, and 4, go over those pretty broadly, and then the chapters after that kind of get into topics that deal with those aspects of development a little more specifically. So just keep that in mind. I think it's important to remember that those 3 things, like I said, that they aren't separate things, although we will talk about them at points throughout the semester as separate things. It's important to remember that they do interact with each other. And what influence us socially as an adolescent, developing adolescent, can also influence us psychologically and all of that. So keep that in mind as you read chapter 1. That'll be kind of next week, but I want to go ahead and get kind of a leg up on that. And if you guys, again, have any questions, please send me an email. If not, I'm enjoying reading or watching your introduction videos. Don't forget to take the syllabus quiz. And if you guys have any questions, again, send me an email, and you guys have a great weekend.